Welcome to another edition of Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bry Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bry Raven, 29-year veteran writer, illustrator, and editor of comics, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing games. And it's Booktober, Day 4, 2021. And that means we're going to be talking about the Suicide Squad. It's a mega review. That means we're going to be doing multiple books in one episode. We're going to be covering number 3 through 6 of the volumes during the 80s, early 90s John Ostrander run. Why did I go with those issues? Because I don't have issues 1 and 2, basically, in my collection. There was a total of 8 volumes, so I'm missing the first 2 and the last 2. Go figure. But anyway, sorry I started a little bit later than I planned. This show is just starting. I was just hitting the go live button when my father goes, "Hey, I need your help to load the vehicle because I got to go to rehab." So I had to go downstairs and help him load his van to get his wheelchair in so he could go to rehab. So that was why I'm late. I apologize for that. So let's go ahead and get started. I hope you're having a good week so far. Hope your Monday has not been too bad already. I know nobody likes Mondays, right? We're all Garfields, right? But let's go ahead and get started. Nobody likes Mondays, right? We're all Garfields, right? But yeah, sorry about that volume feedback there on the YouTube page. I'm trying to get my screen to do what it's supposed to do. Of course, it doesn't want to. Why would it do that? Okay, here we go. Suicide Squad, Volume 3, Rogues, free paperback, 1999. Publisher DC Comics, written by John Ostrander, Kim Yale, and Larry Gannam. Artists featured are Luke McConnell, Graham Nolan, Peter Krause, Keith Giffen, and Grant Mame as pencilers, with Bob Lewis, Carl Kiesel, Tim Nazan, Bob Oskner, and Fred Butler on the inks. Letterers were Todd Klein and Helen Visick. Colors by Carl Gafford and Matt Webb. The genre is super villain, really what we call a superhero action adventure, but it's, this is a super villain team. Released in trade in I think it says 2006. It's kind of weird, but I'll check it real quick here just to be on the safe side. I may have misread it. It might have been 2016. Yes, 2016, not 2006. It was originally released in singles, though, in 1988 and 89. What it's about? Well, for those who don't know the basic gist of the Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad are a supervillain team who are told by a clandestine organization run by Amanda Waller that if you serve this group, you get years taken off of your sentences for your crimes, but you've got either neck devices or wrist devices attached to you during your missions, and if you don't succeed or you don't do what they want you to do, they blow you up. So anyway, in this particular book, New York has been infiltrated by a group called the Jihad, in relation to any terrorist groups or religious groups in real life. That's just what Ostrander used. These superpowered terrorists who want the Suicide Squad turned over to them for war crimes for the squad's earlier actions in Quark, which is a fictional Middle Eastern city in the DC universe. The squad, consisting of Colonel Rick Flag, Deadshot, Captain Cold, Captain Boomerang, Vixen, Bronze Tiger, Duchess, who is actually somebody else pretending to be Duchess, and Nightshade, they take out the terrorists, but not without some cost to themselves and a fair share of collateral damage, because they've really racked up New York. In fact, this is written in '88 originally, and it has a very 9/11-ish feel to it. It's kind of spooky how predictive Ostrander can be with this. Meanwhile, their handler, Amanda Waller, is dealing with blackmail from politicians who will publicly reveal the squad's existence if she doesn't back them in the election. That's a senator and his associate. After this excursion, Waller has to redefine the team as certain members, like Deadshot, have to leave for personal reasons, and there are other members who are just not reliable. Duchess is clearly Lashina of Darkseid's female furies, but is faking amnesia, so Waller doesn't entirely trust her, for one example, or some other examples as well. It then jumps to the annual that is featured in the story. This covers issues 17 through 25 in Annual 1 as a collection. And the annual tells the secret histories of the organizations that led to the formation of Waller's unit and the Suicide Squad dating back to the 1960s. She details this information to the Suicide Squad. Years before the modern day, at that time, control of Argent is waiting in the office of William H. Martin of the CIA, and Mr. Martin is surprised that Control is waiting in his room. They talk about the assassination of President Kennedy, and Control tells the CIA agent that the decision to attempt to assassinate an ally of the Russian consortium is what resulted in the assassination of Kennedy. William Martin then attempts to kill Control, but Control already has a man hiding behind the curtain behind him and sneaks up and strangles William Martin to death. Keeps all this information secret to keep a third world war from happening, because if it was to get out that the Russians actually had something to do with Kennedy's death, then we would be at war with them and we'd be using nukes. He orders people loyal to him to delete and destroy all traces of Argent and any connections to the organizations that lead to the Suicide Squad from the government's knowledge. Fast forward to the present, and Manhunter, one of their people, has rescued Anna Marie Verre from Argent agents and decides to take her over to the Suicide Squad. She tells him that the head of Argent lives in the Peterson State College, but Amanda Waller doesn't allow Nightshade on this particular mission. She has other plans for her. During the day, they go out to the college and they get as much information on the place as possible by going in undercover. But somehow their undercover is terrible, and the whole team gets kicked off the university grounds after meeting the college president, Mr. Feldspar. Apparently they're either look too old or too out of it. Too obvious, that you're running around. You can't possibly be college students on my campus. Get out of here. So anyway, later that evening, they plan to sneak back onto the college. After they infiltrate the college grounds, they find that this college is actually a hidden Cobra cult base, which makes sense now. You know why they were not able to sneak around on a college campus, because they actually have some real security. But they are able to escape due to a specially designed plane. Meanwhile, after they escape, it is shown that Amanda Waller needs to leave for a meeting in Washington, D.C. And Argent collects Anna Marie and seemingly tries to assassinate, or does assassinate, Waller on the road to Washington. But it turns out that Waller was Nemesis in a bulletproof vest, pretending to be Waller, and Nightshade has actually been following Anna Marie in her shadow form. The Suicide Squad follows where Nightshade is by her transceiver, and they find that Argent's home is actually in London. Control of Argent has been dead for 5 years, and Anna Marie has been secretly in control of Argent for that period of time. It is implied that Argent will now disband because they now know that the Control is dead and there's nobody else to take over. So that's the end of Argent as an organization, and then there's who's now in clandestine control of what now is going to be up for grabs. They cut to the next story, where Captain Boomerang has had a home in New Orleans, and he's been using the equipment of Mirror Master to commit some crimes. Harkness, that's Mirror Master sees a couple of drunk men and he attempts to rob them. These men are undercover cops, and Manhunter was close to the scene as well, so they capture him. And Manhunter captures Mirror Master and takes him to Belle Reve, where Waller recruits him into the squad. Additional stories as the book expands out still revolve around the blackmail situation between Waller and the senator and his allies who have tried to blackmail her. Eventually, Tolliver, who is the one that's really trying to do the blackmail, decides to kill Senator Gray before Waller kills them both. But just before he leaves his office, Jack Flagg, that's Rick Flagg's father, comes and shoots Tolliver before Tolliver can explain that he's going to actually get rid of the senator. Fool them. The last panel shows Rick Flagg quickly leaving the scene after he's found Tolliver in a fax that exposes the existence of the Suicide Squad. So he's like, oh, crap, it's too late. They've already been exposed. And this is a setup by Jack. Waller is then forced to brief the squad on a current state of the Tolliver Senator Cray blackmail situation, and that they have to stop Rick Flagg from killing Tolliver and Cray by any means necessary, but she doesn't know that Tolliver's already been killed and that the note's already there left for Flagg to find that ties the murder to them. So they arrive in D.C., the team splits up, and they're all looking. They're trying to decide whether or not any of them are going to be capable of killing Rick Flagg if the need arise, because they have to stop him by any means necessary. Well, Flagg corners Senator Cray at the Lincoln Memorial, but he's interrupted by Deadshot, who informs him of Waller's orders. Flagg demands he shoot him, meaning Flagg, because he's not going to stop. So Deadshot sends a bullet through Cray's skull instead. And then a bunch of people shoot Deadshot repeatedly, and he's wounded and has to go to the hospital. This prompts a congressional subcommittee hearing on the squad, which, of course, is a political nightmare. But Waller, in the meantime, has sent the squad overseas on another mission and won't reveal their locations due to national security reasons. The head of the committee, Senator Eden, is about to disband the whole enchilada and throw all of them in jail permanently. But then Waller reveals that Nightshade is Eve Eden, his daughter, and thus blackmails Eden to keep his mouth shut and let things stand. So what do I think of all this? Well, I think if you like the undercurrent of political drama and blackmail and stuff, then Ostrander and company have got that in spades. He does a very nice job of keeping a large cast engaged while focusing on the Waller investigations and political situation. The art, well, I've seen all these pencilers ink better before. Kiesel does a nice job making McDonald, but largely the art is just kind of there. And if you're reading this book, you're probably there for just for the fact that, you know, what Ostrander's contributing, in my estimation. It is recommended for ages 13 and up, and I give it 3.5 stars. Now, the other books are not going to be quite as in-depth as this one, because reading 4 books back to back is a bit much, but to write a whole review on. But we'll go ahead and get into the next one, which is the Janus Directive from Volume 4, also 1999. This is got a lot of crossovers between multiple titles. It wasn't just the Suicide Squad collected. It also collects Checkmate, Manhunter, and Firestorm, and Captain Atom issues. So there's quite a bit of stuff in here. The writers are John Ostrander and Kim Yale for the Suicide Squad stories, Paul Cooperberg, Cary Bates, and Greg Weisman for the other issues that are included. Artists include John K. Snyder III, Steve Irwin, Grant Mine, Rick Hoberg, Raphael Kayanen, and others for pencils. Inked by Carl Kiesel, Pablo Marcos, Romeo Tangal, and others. Letterers include Todd Klein and Kerry Spiegel. Colors include Carl Gafford and Dean D'Angelo. Again, the genre superhero action adventure, and this was released also in 2016. But but originally was released in story, singles back in 89 and 90. Again, this does collect Suicide Squad 26 through 30, Checkmate 15 through 18, Manhunter number 14, Firestorm 86, and Captain Atom number 30. And what it's about. Well, the Suicide Squad have always been held in check by their leader, Amanda Waller, but now it's clear that Waller is sending a team on missions in pursuit of her own personal agenda. Soon, other governments and supervillain teams become involved, and all-out chaos erupts. The question now is, who controls the one who controls the supervillains? Well, the story starts in Jotunheim, which is another one of these cities in the Middle East. Rustam, who's one of the villains of the Jihad, has decided to grow or develop new members because back in the previous trade, when they were in New York, pretty much all the other characters other than Rustam were killed off by the squad. Meanwhile, Amanda Waller is ambushed by Amanda Waller. This implies that she may be getting replaced by a clone or imposter. So we don't know if she's actually been taken over or not. She may have been captured and replaced, or she may have taken out her imposter. We're not really sure. It's implied, though, that she has been replaced. Cut to Rick Flag, who has sent a letter to Nightshade. He relates a story about his father's Suicide Squad, which is the one that was run by Jack Flag, and Jotunheim. The old Suicide Squad has sent the Nazi-made Jotunheim, was sent to the Nazi era of Jotunheim that had made Jotunheim steal up an experimental tank and to neutralize an experimental atomic bomb. The insides of Jotunheim got blasted with normal explosives during the mission, and that allowed the atomic bomb to become lost. So this atomic bomb has been missing for decades. The Jihad has recently found it, and Jack Flag plans to detonate it. So during this infiltration, Jack Flag has to kill a guard, and Rustam found the blood. Jack Flag had already armed the atomic bomb, though. As those two fight, the bomb explodes, and Rustam, Jack Flag, and the entirety of Jotunheim is sent to their apparent deaths. Of course, this triggers all kinds of political unrest between Waller's group that runs the Suicide Squad, Task Force X, the group Checkmate, and other clandestine governmental organizations in the U.S. She starts an emergency meeting of Task Force X, which includes Harvey Bullock and Harry Stein. Checkmate. Now, I've never read Checkmate. I didn't know Harvey Bullock was part of it. That's kind of an interesting thing that, of all people, he's part of that. Okay, he's part of Checkmate at that period of history. The Bronze Tiger of the Suicide Squad, and Bridges Diabo of Project Peacemaker, among others. Waller explains that she has discovered the Janus Directive, which is a conspiracy to have the American intelligence community to fight amongst itself and implode the whole country as a result. She believes that the Atom Project, or the Force of July, Force, not Fourth, Force of July, will attack the Suicide Squad, or Task Force X. Amanda Waller assigns Checkmate and Project Peacemaker to capture or kill General Elling and Dr. Magala of Project Atom to prevent this situation. She then assigns the Suicide Squad to steal the Medusa mask from the Force of July. And the Suicide Squad is authorized to kill the Force of July if necessary. All of this seems a little bit excessive, even for Waller, and the evidence that Waller has presented to them is questionable. So Harvey Bullock and Harry Stein, members of Checkmate and Project Atom, agree that without any evidence, they're not going to kill General Eiling and Dr. Magala. They secretly agree to get in touch with other people, Blackthorn and Val Vostok, within their own organizations to independently verify the existence of the Janus Directive before they do anything. But that's what they're doing. Task Force X has no choice but to follow Waller's orders. In an unknown location, seeming unrelated to Task Force X, two unknown agents are insinuated to have discovered info about the Janus Directive and are attacked. Back at Belle Reve, where Task Force X is headquartered, Bronze Tiger briefs the squad on the mission to steal the Medusa mask and the abilities of the members of the team, the 4th of July. After the briefing, Flo Crawley talks to Bronze Tiger about talking to Oracle, that's Barbara Gordon, because Oracle has no information to corroborate the existence of the Janus Directive. Mm-hmm. It all turns out they're being played by the Cobra cult. Of course, when the rest figure this out, they all assume that Waller has been replaced by the Cobra operative, but really it's Waller who's captured the Cobra operative, is playing along to get Cobra to open up and make themselves vulnerable. Because of course she is. This is Amanda Waller. She's tough. She's, badass. In space, however, all this is set up in outer space. Cobra's plan is to kill the entire population of the Earth by using an electromagnetic pulse. And Dr. Magala and Babylon are captured and stuck up there on a space station so that they'll survive. Lord Naga is presented with the destroyed Manhunter suit, and Mark Shaw has disguised himself. Mark Shaw is Manhunter, by the way. He's disguised himself as a Blackadder, waiting for an opportunity to leave or save the civilians that the Cobra cult have abducted and get free. That doesn't go very well. But anyway, what I think. Ostrander sure loves to write these convoluted messes of espionage. You probably should be writing James Bond novels or comics. I never read Checkmate or the other books the story features, so I was a little bit lost in places as to what was going on. But that's what happens when you have these crossovers, even when you try and put them together in trade collections. I also didn't like any of the Major Force 4th of July team characters that particularly. I felt like I was reading about 5th and 6th tier level characters who are supposed to be a threat. Overall, it was just kind of meh. The art was also a bit disjointed stylistically, as they had artists with completely different styles from one another for the crossovers to Checkmate and Captain Atom, and that made a difference as well. But it was okay. Recommended for ages 14 and up, 3 stars. Let's move on to the next one. That is Volume 5, Apocalypse Now. This was released in 2017 and it is $19.99. And it collects Suicide Squad number 31 through 39. And it features writers Ostrander, Yale, and Robert Greenberger. The artists are John K. Snyder III, Luke McDowell, and Grant Heim with pencils. Snyder III, Jeff Isherwood is inking. McDonald and K.S. Wilson and Kevin Phillips are also inking. Colors by Carl Gafford. Letters Todd Klein and John Workman. This was released again in 2017. I don't know why I put it up top instead of released in 2017 what I normally do, but okay. What it's about. Again, this collects Suicide Squad 31 to 39. This originally came out in 89-90. And Task Force X is sent to Iran this time, which is an actual country this time, not a fictional one, to prevent an execution, only to find that they're rerouted to Apocalypse along with Shade the Changing Man. It will take all their powers and various abilities to fight and escape the female furies of Apocalypse and get back home again. That's basically the gist of this one. I'm not going to go into full length on this one. Like I said, it gets a little bit crazy trying to do that. But anyway, truth be told, by the time I got to this trade, I was beginning to get a little bit burned out reading the books. Ostrander does another good job rotating the characters in and out throughout the stories. Vertigo's back in. Poison Ivy's joined the team. Duchess embraces her true identity as Lashina, among other characters coming into the series at this point. And, sure, sending a supervillain to Apocalypse is pretty much a solid definition of suicide, so it suits. But the truth is I didn't find myself very interested. But the quality isn't – it's not that the quality isn't consistent. It's actually stays consistent or actually a little bit better in terms of the actual storytelling. It just means that I was getting tired of reading it and I needed a break more than anything else. Recommended for ages 14 and up to 13. It gets a little more slightly above PG-13, so I gave it 14 and up. And it's 3.5 stars. And then we go, well, it's saying it didn't want to, there we go. Suicide Squad, Volume 6, Phoenix Gambit, 1999. Again, this collects number 40 through 49 of the series. And again, it's Ostrander and Yale with Dave DeVries writing one of the issues. Artists include Luke McConnell, or McDonnell, rather, and I don't know why it says McConnell or McDonnell. But anyway, Jeff Isherwood and Mark Badger. Jeff Isherwood really does take over this this collection. Letter is Todd Klein, colors by Carl Gafford, and it released in 2017. And the actual issues came out in 90. As of results of the previous issue with the Apocalypse, Amanda Waller has been sent to prison and has been there for over a year. Task Force S has been disbanded after they fled custody while taking down LOA, which is another clandestine governmental organization. But the U.S. government isn't finished with the Suicide Squad. Political unrest in the Eastern European country of Vltava causes Sarge Steele, who's the new runner of the squad, to turn to the dirtiest black ops team in the business. And he has to basically give Waller a reprieve from her prison sentence and say, okay, put the squad, let's get the team back together. But Waller has a price for this. Full autonomy, and the squad are now free agents instead of being controlled by the government in any way, shape, or form. And so she's been in prison, so she has to enlist the aid of none other than Batman to track down the scattered members of the squad and reassemble them. Plus, in order to prevent a confrontation between American and Soviet forces in Vltava, Batman and the Suicide Squad have to go to Europe together. Remember, though, Vltava is Count Vertigo's home country, so this ought to be real interesting. Are they going to put the criminal Vertigo back in charge of his own country, or are they going to, what are they going to do with that? Personally, I think this is probably the strongest of the 4 books, particularly artistically speaking. As I said, Jeff Isherwood tends to take over this book, and he does a great job inking himself. And he inks McDonnell as well. I really think the inks in the previous books has kind of been a downfall of the artwork. And the one story in the book where Mark Badger inks over Isherwood, you can really see where it's night and day, and not in a good way. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. Let me figure out where the story, which one it is. But here, let me go ahead and pull this up here. This is Jeff Isherwood inking himself. You can see it's a pretty nice level of detail, good shading, good lighting effects, good details in different parts of the backgrounds and stuff like that. More of Isherwood by himself. But when we get to when you can see the difference here. This is the same penciler, but Badger's inking him. And you can see it's just not nearly as, it's very scratchy, almost like they don't even try. And that's kind of what happens throughout the whole series. And I think that's one of the reasons why this book was sorely overlooked as a series back in the 80s. I heard a lot of it praising the writing, but never that much about the art until I got to the Isherwood era, where it was all him. But back to the review. When Isherwood does the finished art over McDonald pencils, I can tell they're McDonald's pencils, and I can show you some McDonald's pencils from earlier in another issue that's not inked by him. Again, let me do that. This is McDonald, not inked by Isherwood. Kind of loose. It's not bad. It's just, the line art's pretty loose. But when Isherwood's inking him, let me see if I can, there you go. Much better. Much more detailed. So, again, Isherwood really takes over that issue, or this last trade. So, like I say, he makes the book. He takes the overall book for himself and really does a nice job, and makes it his own. Like I said, when this series was originally coming out, I think it got massively overlooked because the art just wasn't that strong on it until Isherwood came along. I was really burned out by the time I got to this issue, or this trade. But once I saw Isherwood's art, it rejuvenated my interest enough to make me want to finish. Right then, I'm going to keep reading, type thing. And of course, there's that bleeping amazing cover by Norman Breyfogle of Oracle at the last issue. Let me show you that real quick. This is the last story in the collection, and it's almost a reward for going through the whole book just to see that artwork. And there's that beautiful, beautiful cover by Norman Breyfogle that they include here in the trade collection. It's also on the back cover here, so I'll get a little bit closer. And when I first saw this, I did not realize this was Norman Breyfogle. I actually thought this was Brian Boland, because it just reminded me of how Boland does certain things. And so I was rather actually kind of surprised to realize it was Breyfogle when you open it and you guys can see the Breyfogle signature down here where my finger was just tapped. That's his signature on her blanket over her legs. Mm-hmm. And it's just really a beautiful, beautiful cover. This is one of those few covers out there that I'd actually want to own in my art collection original art, if I was crazy enough to be able to afford that and spend money on that. But anyway, there are two more trades in the Ostrander era after this. I don't have them, unfortunately, but I do think after having read all four of these back to back, it's a fair summation that they're worth also tracking down. And I do remember friends of mine in Amateur Press Alliance fanzine groups, particularly the Super Team Amateur Press Alliance, praising this title a lot back in the day. I just wasn't much of a DC guy back then, let alone the mid-card to lower tier DC titles, which unfortunately Suicide Squad kind of was at the time. It probably shouldn't have been for the quality of the writing. But it's definitely worth the much discounted price I paid for these. I got these at Ollie's bargain outlets, and you should probably look for them at the Ollie's outlets if you can have one near you, or at your LCS, local comic shop. They're even worth the cover prices. Recommended for ages 14 up. This one I give 4 stars. So I gave 2 3.5, so 4 and a 3. So overall, I would give the run a full 3.5 stars for those 4 books. And that covers today's review. I hope you enjoyed watching that. Tomorrow, we'll be reviewing John Ridley, Those Who Walk in Darkness. This is a novel, prose fiction. It's about a female cop that hunts down superhumans. and So that should be a real interesting story. And Ridley would then go on from running this novel stuff to end up writing characters like Batman for DC. So this is so for all you fans out there, who go, hey, where are these guys coming from and these SGWs and stuff, because Ridley's black, this is where I'm going to give you a little bit of a background on this guy, so that you guys understand how he came to work for DC writing characters like Batman through people's familiarity with this type of work. So that'll be tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m. And I'll see you then. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, or you think others might, please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to continue to get content from this channel. As always, I thank you for your support. If you want to reach out to me and ask questions, or you have comments about content or anything like that, you can reach me at Facebook at Lewis.BrightRaven, at Twitter at LewisBrightRaven2. You can see some of my own original art at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. You've been watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Brightraven, exclusively on YouTube. If you have questions, you want to email me, or you want to commission artwork after looking at my work on deviantart.com or anything like that, Quoth the Raven LBR72@gmail.com is the best place to reach me. And if I don't get back to you either live on air or via email, it might have gotten lost, so try LewisBrightRaven@yahoo.com. We will see you next time. See you tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m. Have a good day and a good week.